Hi and welcome to Phoenix Crypto. My name's Andy and welcome to another edition of Market Watch. As always, it's an exciting time in the world of crypto and Bitcoin. So what have we got? So we're currently looking at the bull market support band, which we can see we are well underneath, and we've had another morning of redness, of going down, which has been good from a point of view of, well, if you're short, which I was, it was very profitable. I think my Bitcoin trade topped out at around 700%. I think Ethereum 860. So, very, very profitable morning. Scalped a little bit of longs. So not being too bad. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about. One is, are we in a bear market? And I think I was just measuring from the top over here to where we are now, 52%. And if I was to draw a nice line, let's do it from here. We are not that far off this. That line isn't quite straight, but it doesn't matter. We are not quite far off this. And I actually feel that that's really not straight. I feel that it is possible that we can head down and we can get to that point. Very possible. And if I was to extend this just under 60%, and then we've got the 200 EMA, and I've got a 200 SMA, which is doing funny things to my screen. Let's just make this nice and big. Let's get these out of the way. And we know that price does like to be drawn to these, right? So if I zoom out a little bit, you can see particularly, they both coincided here on the EMA. I prefer the EMA personally. Rested, bounced, tested off here, tested, dipped down below, but it was only a wick, tested, and look at that climb. Okay. Tested, broke down, and this is where actually it found support at the SMA, 200 SMA. Kept on trading, going up, broke above. When it did, we had a big move up, and actually we only broke down once more, and then we broke back up again. So big upside having retested it. So what happens if we drop to this now? So from here, 63%, not bad. Not saying it's going to happen straight away, so this has a chance to go up, of course. Even more, 70%. That would be very obviously bear market. What I would turn around and say is 50% feels like a slightly on the higher side of correction. I'm not sure if that's strictly true, but to me it feels like quite a big correction. I think if we bounce off here, off the 29-30k mark, then I think we'll see we could easily have quite a healthy bounce, and we can probably make it above that horrible trend line that we've been bouncing from, and we can feel in reasonably good shape. I think if we test it a bit more, and then break down below, I think these are the levels. These two are the levels that I'm watching. Okay. I think it would also be very interesting, and there are plenty of services out there. Order Book is one. Sorry, is it Order Book? But there are definitely some services out there where you can actually see the buy orders, and I think there's probably some very big buy orders around 30k. Is also a psychological, point. But the fact that it's been tested here, this could just be a bounce off here, and then we could be back up. What kind of bounce? That's probably a question. I think we can do a number of couple of things really. We can just kind of zigzag, can't quite go backwards, but we can zigzag, bounce, bounce, and then do that, or let me get rid of my lovely drawing. Or we can get something that's a little bit more violent. Which is probably what I would prefer. The more we'll test something, on the one hand, the stronger it gets, but on the other hand, also you almost need something more violent to get more explosive in terms of movement up. So at a macro level, that's really what I'm looking at. I'm really looking for whether this 30k is going to hold, what kind of reaction we get off there. And I think if we get something that's quite explosive, then it's very possible that we can get back above the bull market support band by the end of Q1. If we don't get something explosive, I won't be sure the 30k is the bottom, which it might still end up being. And also, it might take us a lot longer. So if I was to put up, let me add it to this chart. Let's put, that's not the right one. Put VMC Morpheus up on a weekly, drawing random lines again. We can see, look, we've got this very big anchor wave, not quite that big, but big enough. If I look on the 2 weekly, this is just looking just to be a small trigger wave. It is quite small. If you look at this as a bear market, this is nothing, right? So you can see, just visually looking at how long that took, how long these took, right? That it is easy to see that we could end up being over here, right? Very easy to see. And you can argue it's already been 3 months from the all-time high. It's been on a downward slope ever since. And it's very possible that we could go beyond Q1. I'd be optimistic about Q2, but there's a lot that can happen between now and then. If you look at the monthly, that red dot only just really confirmed last month. Has it really played out? I mean, the VWAP has, but is that it? Or are we gonna, come up a little bit, come back down? What do we think is going to happen? So, this is far from clear. Far from clear. There's also nothing to stop this coming up and us having, another peak like that. I would argue that if we did, it would be the last pump before we go into the bear market. Although you could argue we're in the bear market already. And I think that whether something is a bear market or not is only has relevance to people who are buying and holding. I think some of the prices are brilliant. I mean, I picked up some Cardano at under $1. It's hard not to imagine that if I just wait long enough, it will just go up, because you know, the return, the ROI year on year is very good in the world of crypto, and we've seen Cardano up at $3. So if it goes up to $3, you know, that is a handsome profit. I think it was Chainlink that I can't remember off the top of my head, but there we go. I don't suppose it really matters which one. It's not really a good looking chart. There we go. Let's get off a monthly. We're under $15. I mean, that's nuts. Absolutely nuts. Crazy price. And this has gotten, what's the all-time high? Over 50. So, you know, it just makes sense that you can just sit and hold it. You know, it'll come to you. It'll come to you. It's just a game of patience. It is a game of patience. So let's look at what is going on right now. So I'm on the 30-minute. Let's go to the hourly. So this morning I shorted down here. You can see we came down, got to the very outside of the Keltner band, dropped down a little bit further, and you can see we've gone up a little bit. You know, we're ranged. But what happened? That Keltner band has moved down with us, and actually, when it dropped again today, bang! You know, we dropped again to the bottom of the band. I think this is quite interesting, seeing these trend lines. I'd have to double check. Those aren't the trend lines that we were trading before. No, those were the ones that we last rejected. So we've now got a new set of trend lines, which is great, and you can see. So that's quite useful, and this is the reason why I love these Trendline Pro. Great indicator from Lonesome the Blue. I highly recommend it. But now you can see there what we've got, and actually this now provides a good opportunity to spot a potential reversal. So at the moment, you know, you look at those green bars, looks like price is going up, and you know, I think there's a bit of upward momentum, absolutely, but getting up to here, definite reversal point, something to be aware of. I think if I just turn those off a second, and if I turn the Keltner band off from Cryptograph, another one of my favorite indicators. So we can see we've been in this downward channel here. There's probably another version of this channel actually to be drawn. I can't remember what time frame I drew this on, but there's actually another version of this that I think I may have done, which caught that as well, or certainly here, if I can remember where I've put it. So I did that on the 30-minute. Let me just put, yeah, it's on the 2 hour. So you can see there, and this helps also to show where a bottom of a channel might be, right? So you can see that as we go down, we're just over the middle. In fact, this has got a median line here. You can see potential opportunity for us to reject off that. You can see how it's played a part here. Broke down below. I'll just try and zoom in a bit more. And you can see how almost nothing in crypto. Look, there we go. Broke down below, retested, come back below, retested, got back above, tested and then couldn't hold. We've gone back above, couldn't hold, tested up here. We're now going back up. So really in the short term, you know, I'm probably looking in and around this, you know, late 34, early 35k mark. If I put back on Trendline Pro, which hopefully will draw a couple of lines. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's the place. That's the place we're looking at. Not that much further from where we are now. Probably another $300, $400, $500 could go up to here, but you can see how that intersects, right? So that's the key points to watch out for. And I think this also shows the importance of drawing these kind of channels, trend lines. All gives you kind of context of what may happen, and to try and give you the ability to predict what price might actually do. I think just talking a little bit about what the exchanges might be thinking here. There'll be people who would have entered longs thinking we can't possibly be at the bottom, and newsflash for you, whenever you think price can't possibly go lower, I can absolutely categorically assure you it will find a way to do so. Okay, we never thought we'd hit 34k. This morning got as low as, gosh, just into the 32s. Didn't think that was likely. I thought 40k would be the absolute bottom. I really did. I thought there would be strong support. There's a difference between what I believe and what I trade, right? I trade what I see, but I had a belief. But you can see that there is so much more downside possible here, right? And when you look at the 29k mark, I think it's close, it's about up here somewhere, you can see even that, plenty of room for it to come down. Plenty. And you've got to think, whatever we do, we have now to break this trend line, and this, right? So to get bullish, we've got a lot to get over, right? An awful lot. So short term, it does not look good. And I think because people have got longs thinking, we can't possibly go down, exchanges will absolutely hunt these people. You think they don't know where your longs are, where your liquidation points, your stop losses. You're trading on their platforms, of course they'll know, right? Of course they'll know. And if they didn't, which they do, they can buy data from on-chain analysis companies who sell them all of this information, and they will know. And what they'll now do is they add sentiment in, so they can now start trying to predict where price will go based on what people are talking about. So absolutely, I think we're going to come down lower. This trend line looks pretty ominous. The fact that we've tested it a couple of times here, we can probably test it again and probably see something a little bit lower, and that'll be interesting. The only thing that is probably interesting to me is also the speed with which we've come down. That's only been literally a few days. We'll have a CME gap above, so if we do come down, and that's the other thing, is there will also be people who would have had shorts and probably still opening shorts now thinking, so there is probably a pump, a relief pump, probably formed out of a bullish divergence, because we know price has gone down. I think at some point, RSI and all of these other, MACD will all start showing a bullish divergence. I can imagine we'll get a pump, I'm not sure to what point, which will liquidate some of the shorts. We'll probably reject off a trend line somewhere and then come down and try and liquidate the longs. This is the kind of mentality, the thought process that goes on in the exchanges. So I have no doubt that this is what's going to happen. The question is always at what price point and when. But it's definitely going to happen. So I think in the short term, we are still looking bearish. I think there's still more downside. We've got to break this channel really by the end of the month, really. So over the next week. I appreciate this is only on a 1 hour time frame. So if I go to a different time frame, we'll have different trend lines appear. Yeah, right. So these are all change based on the timeline. And I would argue the strength of them changes as well. So if I look at just, here we go, VMC Morpheus, where we are now. 4 hour VWAP's coming up. 3 hour VWAP's coming up. 6 hour VWAP's coming down, but it's actually curling round. So, you know, next close, not that far away. So we'll see. That might curve back up again. And then we'll start feeling a bit more confident, I guess. 8 hour will just have finished. And you can see actually, although it's come down, it starts to curving. So it has never actually dipped below. So actually, we could easily go back up, or it could stay flat. So, you know, there's different things that can happen here with that. I won't look at the higher time frames. I mean, I'll just put a daily on, but you can see we're going up there, and that's what the daily wants to see. So that could print a green dot, and that would be really positive. You can see trend line here, and you can also see the RSI over here is looking still very oversold on the daily, which I would agree with. You look at the 12 hour though, coming down but curving round. So, you know, we'll have to see what happens on that. So I think we could see a continual move up, but I would be wary of that trend line just over here. So go back to the you know, this space, and I think that's going to prove tricky. I'm not sure if I can see anything on a 2 hour here that's looking particularly positive. I mean, there is a very small kind of divergence that will be happening here, very small. VWAP's coming up, but money flow's not. This isn't a particularly small trigger wave, which is obviously more powerful. So, you know, and we've got this trend line here, which is reflective of the fact that we've got plenty of resistance above us, which we'd have to break. So, you know, short term, as in literally the next probably hour, 2 hours, it's probably long. But after that, I think I'd be looking for a reversal point. So something to bear in mind, something to watch out for. Hopefully, this kind of illustrates, though, that the benefit of looking at a macro view, but also the kind of analysis that I personally do, this is relatively simple. I would argue the trend lines here are auto drawn for me. The channel I've drawn myself, obviously. And, you know, there are other trend lines that have been drawn on here. If I go off here and back on, there are others. They're not very well coloured, right? There are others, I promise. I may have had them switched off. But, you know, and just to show you how easy it is to draw trend lines, you know, just look for where there is pivot points, and you can see, and actually just drawing that one here, you can see how it intersects there, right? And where you get price that sticks, you know, we can probably find another way of drawing it, you know, and you know, you can see this one here, this went to what, don't know if that was an all-time high in September, but a September point, look where that intersected with the 4th of December drop down to 42k, right? Look where we found ourselves there, right? So all of these trend lines have a habit of reappearing and connecting between different points on a chart. So hopefully you can see how simple and easy it is to draw these things and how useful they are. Right, thank you very much for joining me. If you like the content, press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and thank you very much.